Hello, everybody. I'm Mel Doerr, the Aloha Shirt Psychic, and I am so excited. Yay. Um, we've got the one, the only Deann in the house.
Yay,
Back.
Deann.
Hi, Deann. Um, and Deann, uh,
Hi.
Deann's taking hiatus, a little bit of a hiatus from doing readings right now, but her oils are incredible. You gotta use them. Uh, I put them on
Thanks. I
everything.
love them.
They work.
Me
So,
too. For years, I've used them.
So, Deanna, if they want to get a hold of you, how do they do it for your oils?
They can just call me, or actually, it's better to text me at the business number. It's 833-277-8105, or they can email me, and it's Deann's, Deanns, and then shieldmaiden.com, or Dean's Shield Maiden Tarot at gmail.com. Had a brain crap.
And I'm
Yep.
so excited because I got the wonderful Dr. Lena.Rodriguez with us too. Hi.
Hola.
Hola,
Here
¿cómo
we are.
estás? We were talking Spanish before the show, so we were comparing stories, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
One you. Lena, if they want to get a hold of you, how do they do it, my dear?
Through my email.
And
So, Mel, if you could put it up
okay,
on this video,
when
I'd be grateful.
we're done, I will put it in the comment section below so they can see it.
Thank you so much.
It is Lena, Lena dot
Yeah. Dot.
Rodriguez,
Yeah.
ROD,
Dot.
Lena dot Rodriguez,
Mm,
RODRIGUEZ
mm.
dot Tarot, TAROT, at gmail.com. But I will put it underneath.
Thank you. And I've just now started readings again. I haven't been reading for a year because you know how it goes in cycles and stuff. And I've been missing it. So I'm actually going to start personal readings again. So you can email me.
Yay. And I was off for almost 3 months because I had surgery and I was sick. And Lena, thank you for your support. Deanne, thank you for your support.
Mm.
And I'm back. So here we
And
are.
it's great to see you looking fabulous. You
I lost
do.
a lot of weight. I was 189 before I got sick, and then I got down to 160. I'm about 165 now. I want to maybe
Mm.
get
Wow.
168, so I'm going to keep it around that. So, but I'm eating everything. I want to
I'll
eat the
probably
dog. I'm so
lose
hungry.
weight here today. Our air conditioning went out a couple days ago. So if y'all see me with my little fan,
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
In Chicago, it's not that hot today. It got overcast, so there was it was hot, but like a cool breeze. But
Not as
Australia,
bad.
you're having your winter now, right, Lena, in Australia?
Yeah, and where I live is a cold city. It doesn't snow in my city, but you can feel it on the mountains behind.
What is the temperature there?
Oh, well, I've moved to centigrade now, so not much, probably 25 or something in Fahrenheit.
Oh wow, that's cold.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
below zero
Oh,
centigrade.
well, it can't be 25, maybe 35. So it's cold. It's cold.
So
And
35 is
overnight it goes to 0 Celsius. It's cold.
so you're about 3 Celsius, right? Two maybe?
Overnight we are
Yeah, I gotcha.
3 and 4 overnight. During the day it's a bit better. But it's funny, when I was a kid, we did Fahrenheit and gallons and pints and all that stuff. And I was 11 when we converted. So I still remember the old, if someone has a baby, I can only think of it in pounds. Yeah. But other things I've moved fully metric. It's so much easier. It's so much more
Easier. Like
logical.
I bake in metric now, but we were in Europe once and there was a couple from Australia. And we were, Gary was saying, well, what is, like kilometers, how many miles an hour is it, whatever. And the people in the back from Australia were like, yeah, even though we're metric, but they were in our age group and they knew exactly, in miles and inches and
Yeah, they could convert it.
so
I
anyway.
have an app when I went to Mexico I had to use because I didn't know, I don't know the metric system. So that
Well,
was
for
helpful.
kilometers, like 20 kilometers, I just do it times zero point 0.6. So 20 times 6 or zero point 0.6 is 12,
Mhm.
so that will be 20 kilometers will be 12 miles.
Yeah, there are codes and formulas. Yeah.
It gets
It's
crazy.
easier on the app just to write down 2 pounds. And it tells me immediately. I don't have to do math in my head.
Well, a kilogram's a little over 2 pounds, so
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
a little over 2 pounds. So
Yeah.
we've got questions, and shall we get started?
Hmm.
Yes.
Lena, I'm gonna pose one to you since you're in Australia. And I have a friend who's living here in the States, and he is Australian, actually.
Mm.
Actually, he was born in Cyprus, but he's Australian, but he lives in the States. Go figure. I won't
Yeah, no,
mention,
no.
I won't mention his name because in case the powers that be are watching and I'm not paranoid. But he was out of the country and he got um, a letter from the Australian government or consulate saying that if you're coming into America, make sure you take anything off your cell phone that was criticizing the government because
Yeah.
they're taking cell phones or they will detain you if you're not an American citizen. In other words, if you're you might get detained or deported or
And this is happening. We hear stories every day, of Australians, even in Honolulu, because you think of Hawaii as being cool.
right.
Hmm.
No, one woman, she was visiting her American husband. He's a serving member of the US Navy,
Wow.
and he's waiting in the arrival hall, and she's hauled off and then deported. He's still waiting in the
in,
hall.
in customs, right?
Yeah,
Well, he
I
scrubbed
mean,
everything on
it's
his phone.
insane.
He
It
talked
is.
he talked to some lawyers here that he knows. He has a business here, scrubbed everything on his phone. He got through okay. But yet I find it amazing that the governments are telling their citizens if they're coming to the United States to be careful. And
Oh, they have to. I mean, even Canadians are getting picked up at the border.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
truly shocking. And the next thing will be naturalized American citizens. This is what David Packman talks about and stuff. So people who have had citizenship since they were 3 years old,
Well, I wanted to say
will
real
be the
quick,
next target.
I have a friend who is an American citizen, born and raised here. She has a, Spanish last name, and she
Mm.
works and she travels for work. Well, she was coming through Dallas Airport. They seen she had a tarot. You know how they go through your stuff? They go, "What is
Yeah.
this?" They said, "What is this?" She said,
Mm,
"It's a tarot deck." She
mm,
said, they go, "Do you make money off of this?" She said,
mm,
"No, it's just a hobby."
mm.
They arrested her, took her shoes, took her
Yeah.
phone, locked her up for, I think she was in there for 26 hours. She was begging. She said, "I was cold. I had no blanket. I had no pillow. I had nothing to lay
This
on. I
is the
was
thing. Yeah,
freezing."
you're left on a concrete floor.
Yes. And finally, after I think it was 26 hours, they said, "You're free to go." No apology. No,
No.
she was terrified.
I
And
want
I think the whole US tourism industry is on the brink of collapse because people are either afraid to go and
Mhm.
because I know a lot of Polynesians and Pacific Islanders and they're brown. Anyone brown doesn't want to go. Mhm. And then everyone else is saying, why give the money to this fascist state? So between those who don't want to for this reason, there's others who don't want to for that reason, and it has to be impacting tourism.
It
any
is.
I would have had my tarot deck and I would have said,
I
yes, I do make a living, and my cards show me that you have a curse on you.
I know exactly. Well, I'm not going anywhere near the States for 4 years
I don't
because of my
blame you.
last name. Seriously.
Right? Right?
Rodriguez is like Smith in Spanish. There's no way.
Rodriguez, Fernandez,
And
Perez.
I've been held up at the Texas border back in the day just because my name was Rodriguez. So,
Um, so the bigger question is, uh, and I agree with you, Lena. I put my trips together, I sell my trips, and we're going to Peru. I'm so excited. But I
yeah.
had 7 cancellations, but two of them canceled because they were fearful of leaving the country. And I
Mhm.
said, but Sal, number one, I'm a psychic, and if I thought there was going to be an issue, I wouldn't be on an airplane.
Mm.
But I've talked to people in Europe, And they welcome us Americans because they know the 60 or 70% of us don't like Donald Trump.
Yeah, people can distinguish between the American people who are decent and
Right.
the regime.
So they're not taking it out on us.
No.
So I would tell people, don't be afraid to travel overseas. You know,
I tell Americans don't be afraid to travel in that sense.
bingo,
Uh,
bingo. That's my point. Americans don't be afraid to travel overseas. It's unfortunate
but
people who want to visit here have to be fearful of coming here because of this power-hungry bigot
yeah.
that we have who calls himself a president.
Mm,
Yeah.
My next question, and people are asking this more and more and more.
mm.
What do you two predict about Trumpolini, I call him, uh,
Trumpolini's cute, yeah.
staying in office? I know, but people ask all the time. So what do you see with it, Lena?
Well, I think it's changing, right? So, for the last few years, nearly 10 years, we've been thinking, oh, look, if only Trump's gone, if Trump's gone, if Trump's gone. Now, Project 2025 has their hooks into him as much as everywhere else. It's more worrying now. If he dropped off the perch next Thursday, the machine of Project 2025 is in place, and at the head of that is a corrupt Supreme Court. The real problem, I think, that the US is facing is not even Trump, it's that the Supreme Court is not upholding the law, the
Well,
really big
Right.
fundamental laws.
some of the justices he put in place aren't. Like we can name a few, you know.
Yeah. So the courts are at lower levels, mid levels, higher levels. They're doing the job. They're batting back these cases, but it gets to the Supreme Court. Now, Vance doesn't have the perverted charisma that Trump has, right? So he wouldn't be able to hold it off.
No, he couldn't pull
It
it.
would be very hard to hold some sort of coalition together if Trump wasn't there. But there is a problem, which is the legal system is struggling at the top. Not struggling, they're insisting on behaving badly
Right.
at the
Well,
top and letting people down.
SCOTUS says, but the other courts are ruling against him. But it gets to
That's what I'm saying. All the other courts are doing the right thing, but he just has to wait it out, send it to SCOTUS, and it dies. So the biggest
Right.
problem I think Americans should be focused on is the Supreme Court.
I agree. Lena, you are Lena.
Dan.
Dan, what do you think? What do you see?
I've been reading on it, and I keep getting that something big is going to happen end of August or September. I keep asking and asking it over and over again, and I keep getting the same thing. And I feel like he's messed stuff up so much. And we're going to have that March, July, I think it is 17th, I believe, the No Kings Part 2.
Yeah.
That's going to be huge. But I feel like something is going to happen in September that is going to be so big that he is going to, I don't know. It may be the thing that takes him out. I
I
keep feeling he's going to have a heart attack or a stroke too. I keep feeling his health is declining.
I agree, but also over and above his health, his popularity is
Yes.
finally tanking. And
Yeah.
that's exciting news,
And that's
right?
what I'm thinking. I think that when the Republicans, who the majority of them get food stamp, not majority, but a lot of red states get a lot of the food stamps, a lot are on Medicaid. When stuff starts hurting them individually too, I think that's going to take him down too. His own people are starting to already turn against him. Not all of them, but
Absolutely.
there's a bunch that are.
Yeah, it is starting to give way, which is
Mm-hmm.
exciting to watch. Mm,
And
Yep.
that's where I was going with this because that's
yeah,
what I've been predicting. People want it overnight. It doesn't happen that way.
no,
It's by increment. And when it
yeah.
starts affecting them, they're going to be like, but how could he do
Mm,
that? So I think a lot of people are going to know they drank the Kool-Aid. Um, I guess my question, and I think I don't see Trump finishing out his full term, and
I don't
no,
either.
nor do I think
no,
Vance is
uh,
president.
no, I don't either. And I think it's going to be death by a thousand cuts. I mean, apart from what happens to his body or whatever, it's death by 1,000 cuts from
Mhm.
here. He's looking shocking, and there's dreadful floods and how he's handled it. And he said, I'm going to go to Texas on Friday.
Right?
There's
And
upwards of 200 dead, and he's going Friday.
oh, and
Like
I
it's
want to say
only,
before I forget, did you hear, Lena and Mel, did you hear that? Okay, there was this lady and she was on TikTok saying, I'm gonna wear the alligator Alcatraz merch. And she was just going off on the Democrats. Well, she lives in Texas. She lost her home, she lost everything. And she's like, where's Trump? Where's the help? Well, guess who's helping them? The Mexican president sent people to help.
yeah.
So what are they going to think when they hate Mexicans so much and it's Mexico is the one who's coming to help?
And that young Mexican teenager who saved 20 people.
Yes. Two Mexican girls too saved
Mm,
some people.
I would
yeah.
suggest everybody seeing the movie A Day Without Mexicans. It's an excellent movie.
No, it
Oh,
sounds great.
really?
It's about all Mexicans disappear in this
Right.
country and what
Yeah,
happened.
yeah,
And it's
yeah, yeah.
and it's starting to happen, by the way.
It's
You know,
starting with seeing, and that's the thing with the agricultural workers, construction, and everything. Now people are seeing what those workers do
Right.
because they never acknowledged that before. And Australia's bad at this too. We're a country of immigrants, and the Conservatives always go, oh, no, they're taking our jobs. Well, no, pet, because you're not prepared to get out at 3 in the morning and work for $5 a day and do it day in, day out.
that's right.
And so the Democrats and our Labor Party are very, very bad at making that argument. They avoid it. They see it as a vote killer. They want to keep the center, and they don't confront the reality. And a day without Mexico sums that up.
Right.
Yep.
And I agree, Lena. It's like for Trump, it's death by 5,000 cuts. It's not one
Yeah.
big thing. It's
Right.
Yeah.
all the stuff adding up. My next question was going to be, what happens to the machine? But I think we've answered it because people, as they start to turn against him incrementally, tiny steps, death by 5,000 cuts. So
Yep.
ultimately, laws come to say if we ever that to keep a rogue president from taking power again and
Mm.
to make sure that things don't get so out of hand.
They're wanting the people that are on Medicaid, he's saying, to replace the immigrant workers to take care. So where are they going to take the people out of the nursing homes and
Hold
wheelchairs and
on.
walkers?
I want you to hear something. That bell is my BS bell.
Great. It'll get a workout.
There you go. I'll put a motor on it.
Yes, exactly.
Um, nor do I see Vance as ever being president. You're right, Lena. He just doesn't have the charisma, but he's got to take that eyeliner off. It looks horrible.
Right. I think it's tattooed on.
Oh, geez. Well,
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Um,
he had
I
food
think
stamps growing up.
I'm sorry, Lena. Go
with
ahead.
Vance, we could well see a scenario. What happened with Kamala? So Trump has a health event. He would be the acting president
Correct.
Mhm.
until they have their procedural vote. So I'm not going to say he'll never put his bum in the big seat, but he's not going to win it in his own right. He's not going to be the next one.
But let me rephrase that. If he is president, is acting, but not president for long.
Yes, yes.
2025, they want to put it through, but the courts are going to overturn a lot of that. And once Trumpalini is out of office, and I see Pam Bondi
Mhm.
going to jail. The same thing is going to happen to her that happened to Attorney General John Mitchell under Nixon.
Yeah.
I see her in jail for obstruction of justice and
Mm,
abuse of power. Cash
yeah.
Patel, I see him in deep doo-doo as well.
Yes.
These people are going
Puppy
to.
killer too.
So my feeling is it's going to take a while. It's not going to happen overnight.
Mm.
So the things they're trying to push through with 2025, my guides tell me will be totally overturned. I think within the next 3 or 4 years. So 2025, even though they're pushing it down our throat, ultimately it will be overturned. So ultimately they will not succeed. That's what I pick up.
Yeah. And Vance
Yes.
doesn't have I mean, he doesn't have the connection with the MAGA base either. You know what I mean?
Mm,
I don't
mm,
think he's not going to be able to pull off what Trump pulled off. I don't see him in there long either.
mm.
What do you think about 2025, Lena? I'm sorry.
Well, I think the guys, the tech bros behind 2025 have aligned themselves to get the numbers, and Trump has aligned himself with the evangelical movement, the very conservative Christians, right? Now, it's not a natural fit, right,
No,
with these two worlds.
no.
Trump manages to bridge it, even though he never darkens the door of a church, even though he's a serial adulterer, even though everything. That's just sort of holding because the evangelicals can get into power and do the damage because they're behind the Roe versus Wade being reversed.
Right.
They're behind all this taking teachers out of school and replacing them with Sunday school. That's their buzz.
Yep.
Right. So all of that, I think, is going to be exposed when that nexus breaks between the fascination with Trump and the evangelicals. Now, the question becomes, can the 2025, let's break everything bros,
Mhm.
I don't think they're going to be able to use them. So they lose 2/3 of MAGA.
Bingo.
Yep.
Bingo. I agree. You know, uh, I've even heard some ultra right-wing ministers,
Mm.
saying what is going on and turning against Trump. Death by 5,000 cuts, like,
Mm,
Yeah.
and more of them are going to be coming forward, turning against him.
mm,
Y- You know,
mm.
my feeling is there's going to, I see huge hurricanes hitting Florida this year or next. I mean, storms like they've never seen before.
Yeah.
My feeling is with Alligator Alley or Alcatraz, Alligator Alcatraz, I see people escaping and I see whistleblowers talking about how horrible things are there. And a lot of this things with immigration coming out more and more about how these people are treated. And I think there's going to be a lot of human rights people in this country saying, wait a minute, we've had it. We cannot allow this to continue. And so the
No,
point is a lot of ministers are going to start speaking out about it. Even
I hope that's right. And the other thing with the flooding that's inevitable in Florida,
Mhm.
with hurricanes and stuff. Do you remember Katrina?
yeah,
And the prisoners were left in their cells with water up to their necks,
right,
right?
right.
Yeah.
So America has a history of torture and depravity that it's sort of uncomfortable with. So we just move along and it's happy days and let's.
Right.
This has a precedent. And that was, how long ago was Katrina? It's basically a generation ago. Was it 2007 or
I
something?
think so.
About that time, I think.
It was a generation ago. So young people can't remember Katrina. And so Texas is big in the psyche. And I think you're right, Florida and the Carolinas. It's going to force people into wake up.
Well, Nebraska's a very red state.
Right.
Mm,
Already, the governor is, who's MAGA red is asking Trump for help because all the Latinos fled because they don't want to get deported. So they have their corn in the fields and it's not being harvested, it's not being tended to. And so Trump did supposedly help Nebraska.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking to myself, because they're red, but that were a blue state, he
He
wouldn't.
wouldn't have.
But
But also, he's cherry picking
right,
because Sarah Huckabee Sanders
right,
asked him for help and he said no.
bingo.
Right.
And she stood by him in that humiliating role for years,
lied
and
for
he just
him.
went, nah.
I wonder how she feels because she drank the Kool-Aid. And I remember her
Yeah.
saying, well, I'm a woman of religion. Oh, okay. Where'd that get you, Sarah? Because
Right?
a person of religion or of God wouldn't do the kind of things that these
No.
ultra right-wing Christian nationalists are doing.
Yeah, that's a whole question in itself, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Um, this sort of Christianity, where they're literally, the congregation are saying now to certain pastors, Jesus was weak. Turn
Right.
the other cheek. He was weak. Now, these are cradle to grave, revelations
Right.
type Christians.
Right.
They've been eroded to such an extent they're saying that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And more. It's funny when I see these pictures of Jesus, they make him white with blue eyes.
You
And
wasn't white.
Always.
no, he would have had darker skin. So would the Blessed Mother, because they were from the Middle East.
Right.
Yes.
Um,
Right.
And they wouldn't now be allowed in.
well, there was an
Right.
old song, if Jesus came now, what will we do?
Yeah. Yep. 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 Yep.
Um, okay, so Laura asks,
Oh,
what
sorry.
is
I thought you were talking about
no,
Lara
that's
Trump.
all
Go
right.
on.
I know.
Sorry, Lara.
These are questions that people are asking, and I'm just kind of
Cool.
all in
Cool.
one. The Supreme Court ruled yesterday that the regime can continue planning mass firings of federal workers. Each
Yeah.
worker is being assigned a classification code identifying their primary job functions. Will the regime proceed with their plans even while lower courts are still litigating the legality of these mass firings? I think
Mm.
I answer
Yes.
that, but go ahead.
They don't follow the law. He's going to do
Oh,
whatever he can do
that's
until
it, Deann.
nobody's there to make him not do it. So I think,
That's
yeah,
it.
he'll do it.
Um, I see at some point, the courts having their own almost like police force. I don't know what to call it because in
Mhm.
case we get somebody rogue that gives their middle finger at the court, because the courts can't really enforce, only federal courts, only through the federal marshals, and who controls them?
Yeah.
Trumpolin. But
Yeah.
I see legislation passed futuristically that would say, okay, that there is this enforcement division of the courts that's independent of executive and independent of
The DOJ.
exactly of the
Mm.
DOJ, um, and independent of all branches of government, so that but the court, if the court tells them this person's under in contempt, then that police department
Body.
will, or whatever it is, the enforcement division for the courts. That's what I see.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Yeah.
We
Mm.
don't have that now.
No, it was
No.
buried in the bill that he doesn't have to, they can't hold him in contempt of anything. He buried
Yeah.
that in that big ugly bill.
But what I
Which is really serious.
It
Yeah.
is.
but what I see is that going to the courts. The
Yes.
courts are going to
It
say,
will.
wait a minute, that's unconstitutional. Even SCOTUS would knock that part out,
Mm.
I think. Um, so, all right. Cat Ballou. Well, that was a movie years ago, Cat
I
Ballou.
remember Cat Baloo,
Jane
Sounds
Fonda.
familiar.
where he punched out the horse, remember?
Yes, it was so good.
Oh, yeah, I did see that.
Stubby K played Cat Ballou. I love that. Jane Fonda was in it. I forget who else.
I've
Cat,
She
got
was
a
so
Cat
good.
Baloo story, but I'll wait for the question.
okay. Hello to you, lovely people. Okay, thank you. I was wondering, since there is no Epstein client list now. Well, thank you, Pam, because you said it was there. Now it's not there.
Right?
Let's talk 1983 Newspeak, shall we?
Yeah.
Um, I was wondering, since there is no Epstein client list now, will Ghislaine say screw it and release the list she has? And is she in danger? Thank you for all you do for us. Lena, what do you
Do
think?
you want to start with this, Deanne? Because I could go on for 2 hours.
Me too.
Okay. Well, I think that was kind of funny that they announced that they had it on their desk and then suddenly it disappears, you know. And Elon had mentioned that he's like, we still talking about that creep who he was friends with for 15 years. They came out with a audio that has Epstein talking about Trump and what he was his best friend for 15 years. So he's really ticked off about that. But I feel like it's going to come out. You want to know about the Epstein list if it's going to come out or did I misunderstand?
Or they're wondering if Ghislaine will say screw it and release
Oh,
she has. But
not I think she is in danger if she speaks. She's
Yeah.
scared. She's still scared, I feel. But I feel if we do get a Democratic, House and Senate, or she can feel a little more protective, if there's some protection around her, she may come out with it. I keep feeling like Elon's going to come out with it because I don't know if you guys seen it, but he posted on X, because he's doing this new American Party. He said, I rigged the votes once. I can do it again. And it was on for 10 minutes. They deleted it, but people got snapshots of it. So I feel, and he's threatened to deport Elon. So I feel like this grudge, it's going to get more and more. I think Elon's going to come out with stuff. I think they're going to give him protection, and I think it's going to come out.
um,
And then she'll start speaking when
the
she
files
feels
exist.
protected.
But before she even has to speak, I wrote here, Elon will speak first.
He will.
And he's doing it because he's mad at Trump. Now, do I like Elon? No. But
Deport him. Give him more reason to
but
want to do it.
he's got more, and he's going to come out and show proof of how the elections were
Yep.
rigged.
Yep.
Now, will they get him for interfering in a federal election? No,
He'll
but
get
they'll have
protected.
proof that it came directly from Trump, what to do, and that they even spoke about it.
Yep. State's evidence, I think they call it, when
Well,
somebody, I may be thinking of that wrong, but you tell on a bigger person and they will give you
Immunity.
You have
Mhm.
right. I forget what it's called.
State's evidence, I think.
No, it's yeah,
No?
it is. Well, there's a name for it. Is it the fifth?
You mean when someone's given
Immunity. We will give you immunity.
Yeah, give you immunity.
Mhm.
But
Exactly.
Elon has the files.
He
Yes.
does.
So I say Epstein because the German pronunciation is Epstein.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
But I think, I don't know how they pronounce it, but Epstein, whatever. But there is a list. And I see it a lot of being leaked.
Mhm.
People coming forward to be able to say,
Well,
law, this stuff is true. It's just not hearsay. That's what I see.
even if the list per se has disappeared,
Right.
the flight logs are still available.
Right.
They've been logged.
Yeah.
The problem is, this has been my issue with the Epstein files all along. You're not just dealing with Americans. There were powerful men from all over the world. You had oligarchs and you had political leaders, and we know Clinton's on the list, YouTube entertainment only, as well as
So
it's in nobody's interest in terms of these powerful men for this to come out because they're all on it.
Bingo.
They are all on it, So I think it can only go so far, and yes, she is in danger. I'm surprised she hasn't given up some names already because she's doing hard time in a regular prison,
Yeah, she's afraid.
That's how afraid she is if she speaks. So no immunity declaration will make her speak, I think, because of this.
Yeah.
So where do we end up? I think the problem is, even if it was all God, people have moved on from sexual scandals almost. Like I call Trump unblackmailable now.
Right.
It doesn't matter because if you had the pictures or the audio, they'll say, "Oh, it's faked, it's fake." He's unblackmailable, and
Right.
other men would actually lose careers.
And
And I think his people would stick by him anyway. Like you said, a
That's
lot
what
of
I
them,
mean.
they
I
don't
think
care. They know. Oh, he's
That's
done.
going to not move the MAGA dial. It will move other dials
Mhm.
very fast. And it could come back and bite Elon. If Elon goes ahead in a ketamine haze and decides I can do this, he could be at much more risk. Because he's very naive, Elon,
Yes.
on one level.
Well, I think that he's on the
Mhm.
spectrum a little bit.
Oh, he is.
But it's his way of threatening Trump. My
Yeah.
Intuit Trump is nervous about it. But you said something, Lena, and I agree. What have we come to as a nation when I forgot exactly how you said it, but when Trump is no longer, what was the word you used? That
Blackmail.
Unblackmailable.
unblackmailable. I mean, that, and you're right. I think the ultra right-wing Christian nationalists put up with him because they use him to get their agendas pushed through.
Absolutely.
But what have we
Absolutely.
become as a
That's the
nation?
power play. That's the real power play.
Bingo, it is. It really is. I
Mm,
see an end to this American apartheid.
yeah, good.
Musk, I see coming forward. Now, do I think his American Party will go anywhere?
Oh, God help us all.
It is so reminiscent in the 1960s of George Wallace,
Yeah.
who was in Alabama.
Mm,
And when I think it was Johnson said that the schools had to desegregate,
mm,
and he said no. He was the governor of Alabama, and we sent in the National Guard to stand at those schools to make sure
mm,
that the desegregation occurred.
mm.
you know, and then he formed the American Party, and it was all bigots. And
Yes.
and so Elon Musk, I'm sure will get a few bigots in his party too.
Mm.
But the question, will he form it? I hear yes. But how many votes will that take away from the MAGAs in the midterms?
Well, let me tell you my worst scenario first, and then I've got a slightly more optimistic take.
No.
Now, if it was magically formed tomorrow, everyone at the moment hates Elon and, it wouldn't go anywhere. However, what people call obstacles, because he's not going to head it up himself because he's born in another country, etc. So it depends who he puts up as the head of the America Party. It could go either way. My fear is people have short memories.
Very.
You can't rely on how stupid can rule the day. So when you think a third of Americans didn't vote in the last election, a
That's shameful.
third of eligible Americans, right? Not just independents, didn't vote. Now, what that's saying is, I don't like that party and I don't like that party, and they're all the same, which I hate more than anything else in the world,
Right.
that people can look at this and say they're the same. They are vulnerable to going to a third party. Okay.
That's right.
So I'm really worried about that. My more positive side says it should be the easiest thing in the world for the Dems
Right.
to slam Elon as the Doge. He was the face of Doge. He is the face of cuts. He is the chainsaw man. He is the one coming after you and kill it in the crib.
I
But they
agree.
have to speak in those terms. They must not sit back and talk about clause 4 and 45B and,
Right.
wouldn't it be nice if, everything was different? No. And they have to attack from the minute it comes up.
So, is Elon unblackmailable? I think he is to a degree too.
To a degree, but not totally, because he's
Right.
much more public. It's a generational thing,
Right, right,
almost.
right,
Trump can hide behind the old man thing when he needs to. Elon's in his alleged prime.
right.
But just to explain, indulge me for a minute,
Yeah,
why
no
it's
problem.
so
Yeah.
important for the Dems to let their second tier, they've got a genius second tier of talent. right? You know, the Jasmine Crockett's, the AOC's,
Oh,
Pete
Yes.
right,
Buttigieg's,
right,
Katie Porter, Eric Swalwell, on such talent. And they're notoriously bad at not letting them fly.
right.
Yes.
Now, just this quick example. Brexit. Even most Americans now have heard of Brexit, but in a nutshell, it was this nationalism. We can leave. We can leave the EU. America, make England great again. Royal tea towels, bulldog images. That's us. Bring back the empire. All of that. It was that all of the MAGA playbook. One man, Nigel Farage, he went on TV every day. And every time a microphone was in front of his face, and he said, "You're going to get hundreds of millions of pounds into your health service if you go Brexit. You're going to get this, you're going to get that." He was the face of Brexit, and they voted Brexit. Now, he should have hidden in shame forever, but he's bounced back onto the political scene with a third party. Now everyone hates Brexit, but they've forgotten already. It's 5 minutes and they've forgotten.
Right,
And they're voting for Farage.
right.
And that is because the Labour Party didn't kill it.
My
Do you
question,
guys think, because I didn't get to answer about the American Party, do you guys think that that is going to take, there's a lot of Republicans that are afraid of Trump, they're afraid of MAGA. Do you think that'll be a way that they can go and stay with the Republican Party, but you know what I mean? But feel safer? Because some of them hate him. They want to get away from that.
I know, Deanne, but they think they'll feel safer. But I think it's going to damage Dems as much as Republicans. That's
Yeah.
my concern.
that was what I was
If
asking.
they just took Republican votes away, it'd be one thing, but
Well, I think
Yeah.
Trump's going to say, well, if you're a Republican and you're a MAGA, you can't go with the American Party because it's anti-America, even though he said, well, they'll spin
The
it.
Rhino Party, they'll call
But the
it.
question
yeah.
is, and this has been my question because there's some incredible talent in the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Will the Dems grow a set and do what they need to do?
Yes, that's the key question. That's the key question.
What do you think, Deann? Will they grow a set?
I think they're going to. I think they're going to have to because people are rising up and more people are going to rise up and they're going to realize they're losing their seats. They're going to lose their seats if they don't rise up. I mean, there will be some that don't, but yeah, I think more will because
Mm,
if they don't, they're gone.
What
The
do-
people are the ones who put them in power.
right.
yeah.
What do you think, Lena? Do you think they'll grow a
Yeah, exactly. And I think the youth vote's really important.
bingo?
And I think the
Mhm.
youth will hopefully embarrass them, shame them, inspire them, push them
Yes.
into growing a set because they don't naturally go there.
Bingo.
They're white lines
Right.
in the
No,
middle of
they
the
don't.
road.
Well, I think what I
Yeah,
intuit
what do you think?
going to happen is that there's going to be some people coming along, like in the McCarthy era, there was, it ruined so many people and that whole everybody was a communist and all that crap.
Mm,
But there were some senators that at
Oh,
least stood up and said, "Have you no couth," or whatever they said.
yeah,
And I see some senators coming from the Republican side and from the
yeah.
Democratic side
Mm.
are going to start speaking up more and more. And that whole thing will gain
mhm.
momentum. And they're going to be like,
Exactly. And that's how it works. It's very hard to be the first one to stand up to the bully. It's very hard to be the first one when you know all your colleagues are going to give you grief. It's very hard when you know it may be a risk to your family. Really hard. But after that, it gets easier. You're on this side or that side of right
Yes.
of history. Right. And I agree with you. I think the numbers will then grow, 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 grow.
that's what I see. I asked the cards, I just pulled one. I got the Ten of Swords about Trump, it kind of anxiety, worry, whatever. But I'm not going to disagree with the card. But my feeling is that Trump doesn't want Elon to come out and say things da 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 because even though he's unblackmailable, he's still but
He's still damageable.
bingo.
Right. And what about
Bingo.
Texas? What about this? This is going on. This is going on. Why are you still talking about Epstein? You don't want it talked about.
But the thing that's
No.
really helped bring him down is because he's going to get so cocky more than he
Mm.
already is that he thinks that nothing's going to bring him down, that he can whatever. And
Yep.
so that will be his demise,
Yes.
starting already, I think.
Gonna go a bridge too far, which you'd think he would have already, but
Exactly.
people are
Yeah.
fighting back. People are fighting back in LA. They chased ICE out. They went to go grab a little old lady and they chased him out.
The other thing,
Yeah. And now baby hackers are getting advice early on where the ice raids are going to be. And so there is this resistance.
and that
Yes.
resistance is going to grow. My guides have
Yes.
told me that there's going to be a lot more protests on this No King's Day. They're going to be more and more frequent and larger and larger. My guides
Yes.
also show me that Trump will try to incite violence because
He
he's
will.
thinking about martial
Yeah.
law. And don't think he wouldn't, because he will.
Oh, he
Oh.
would.
Will he get by with it? Almost, but I don't think
Mm.
he'll get by with it.
Mm.
Or if he tries it, it'll blow up in his face. Even
But I think, sadly, even though there will be further loss of life with hurricanes and weather events, and we're overdue all sorts of volcanoes and earthquakes and stuff in the world, this is what actually shatters the cage
That's right. That's right.
eventually.
It's not just one thing that brings him down. It's
No.
numerous. It's that death by all the different cuts. I'm
Yes.
that Lena. I
I
The
will.
like that.
last thing that brings him down is people thinking about things seriously and coming to a better decision. That's not what does it. It's desperation.
But here in
Yep.
Chicago, even law enforcement and other places are not helping ICE. They were
Yeah.
out marching with the protesters.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's wonderful to see.
So,
And
And
I
they got
remember
down
back
on their
when,
knees and went like that for him. And they're like, thank you, thank you, thank you. That's what we want. The police were supporting them.
I picked up
mm,
another thing that I think will help bring him down too, is this new pope. I don't think he's
Oh,
going to
yeah.
be, like bring Trump down, but I think he's going to be speaking up so much about injustice and talking about world peace. Now,
mm,
there'll be movements here, there'll be Catholics here against him, but it might take hold a little. But this pope, I think, is going to be
Mhm.
uh, a, a real, what's the word I'm looking for?
force to
A real
do
bingo, a
a
real
moral force.
power to,
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. Because several things are different about him. One, he's younger than the conventional pope. See, he's just peaking too. And because he's American, first American pope, he understands the psyche.
right.
Yes.
That's right.
He's got a MAGA brother.
That's
He's got other family. He actually gets it,
Hmm.
and
right?
and
And so I think he's uniquely placed as opposed to just being the Pope. He's uniquely placed to again rattle that cage.
my guides show me that before Pope Francis died, he brought this Pope to Rome. Pope
Hmm.
Pope Francis,
Leo.
Pope. He brought Pope Leo to Rome uh, to help Pope Francis put cardinals in place, and so
Ah,
to vet them and all of that stuff. Uh, And so my guides show me that that was a brilliant move on the part of Pope Francis.
yes.
He
Yeah.
told all those cardinals that they put in place, when something happens to me, my choice would be Leo, or Leo to be
Mm,
Pope. It wasn't Leo, but
yeah.
right. So my feeling is that before Pope Francis died, he had a lot to do with getting Leo to be the Pope.
And you can see why it's important because Pope Francis was Argentinian
Right.
and actually understood people being destroyed and trodden underfoot with oppression and the limits of the greed of capitalism and stuff. So he understood all that. And also Pope Leo's been in Peru for many years, where you're going soon, man.
Yes,
So it's like now the Latinos are being attacked. Both those men understood
Hmm.
South America.
right.
Yep.
Um, So I think that's going to be a huge force. I pulled a couple cards just about Trumpolini. I got the moon. Yay. A lot of stuff coming out about him, right? The
Yeah.
Hierophant, I don't know if that would be him. Um, um, but I got justice. So
Wow, good combo.
exactly. The Hierophant would be somebody who's with masses of people, right?
Well, yeah, and someone who's trying to keep the conventions of the society together. The Hierophant is about
Right.
our social contracts with government, law and order, and the church.
Well, then that would be the Pope that we were talking about.
There's a
I
priest
love
called
that.
Father David. He has a YouTube channel and he is going around talking about how wrong these things are. But I watch him all the time. He's very interesting and he's influential on other Catholics. And there are more preachers but that are speaking out. But a lot of the priests are going to the immigration things with the people and
Yes,
praying with them. And
yes.
people are seeing that.
Well, Trump's
Yeah.
going to actually start saying things about this Pope and about the Catholic Church and
Mm,
horrible things. And that
mm.
is going to
Catholic Church is huge.
another cut,
Yeah, exactly. Snip, snip.
another
Snip,
cut.
snip, snip, snip.
We've got time for one more and
Okay.
we'll run. Okay. Um, let's see. Adrienne Foster says, do you see any connection between Trumpolini, that's my new name,
Yeah.
and the October 7th attack on Israel? My gut feeling says he gave Russia the intel to get the ball rolling.
Possible.
Hmm.
Well, the whole, I think what's happening too in front of our eyes is Israel. What happened with Netanyahu was the same as Trump and the evangelicals. Netanyahu couldn't get into power on his own, and so he had to um, get a coalition with far right settlers, far right settlers. Now, I don't know if you remember, but 15 years ago, 10 years ago, on international news, they talk about the illegal settlements on the West Bank
Right,
because the borders had been decided.
right.
That's never talked about now. And while we're looking and not looking at Gaza,
That's
the
right.
settlers have taken over the West Bank. Now, the point I'm getting to here is I think the world is not going to keep tolerating Israel's um, very violent, very aggressive behavior. So anyone who critiques Israel is condemned as an anti-Semitic person.
Yes.
And that's shut people up. It's lost governments. It's caused havoc. Look at the university crises and stuff around this issue. But I think we have to separate what the state of Israel is doing without being anti-Semitic. You can criticize the state without the people. It's up
Bingo.
to where the people sit. Are they going to back this behavior or not? So sorry, I've digressed away from there. What was the core of the question?
Um, oh, hold on.
Adrian, sorry about that.
Adrian, let's see. Do you see any
Oh, Trump and October 7.
right?
Okay, so yeah, but no, but. So US surveillance is very much part of that very close relationship. So I would say there was every chance of US surveillance being part of those immediate responses.
I
Yeah,
think so too.
I agree.
Absolutely. Um, interesting point. I like the point you made, Lena, about, just because we might criticize Netanyahu's Israeli policy, um,
Doesn't
it
make it
doesn't mean we
anti-Israel.
dislike Israel. I mean,
Well, it's
it doesn't mean we dislike the Israeli people or that we're
Right.
anti-Semitic.
no, like any other country, we separate what Trump's doing from
From the
decent American people who voted Democrat and are living the nightmare.
Right.
We have to be able to do that for Israel as well. or it will never be resolved. We can't just step away because it's complicated and difficult, you know?
Well, there are other countries that, criticize Trump and the government, but still like many of us Americans. So they're not
That's my point. Exactly. It's actually normal in the international world. Like we can criticize the Ayatollahs and their oppressive behavior in Iran and not condemn the Iranian people who would love nothing more than to not have the Ayatollahs there, you know.
Yeah, because
So it's really, I think, destructive and pointless to conflate the actions of the state with all the people.
yeah.
Lots of people live in repressive regimes. They're not evil people.
exactly.
They're stuck in repressive regimes. Yeah.
Yeah, because when I went to Mexico and they would say, "De donde eres?" Where are you from? And I
Mm.
wanted to say I'm Canadian because I was,
No, but they know.
but when I told them, and I'm like, I am not for the things he's doing. And they're like, you know what? They got to talking to me. They go, we understand that. We understand. We don't blame
Yeah.
you Americans. We blame him and
Yes.
the ones who are for
Yes.
him. But we know that not all. She said, if you come to our country and you're respectful to us and you treat us with kindness, this you get the same back.
Yes. Yep. And I think it's true of all regimes, you
Hmm.
know.
Um, you know, for Netanyahu, I see him gone. In other words, I don't know. I see a lot of Israeli people standing up against him. And I think a lot of the stuff he's doing in Gaza and a lot of him, going after Iran was wag the dog. In other words,
Yeah. Very wagging the dog.
to
Yeah.
take the heat off of him.
Mm,
He and Trump are coming from the same playbook,
mm,
except Netanyahu's smarter than Trump.
mm.
Uh,
Yes.
He's
but
smarter than Trump.
I see Netanyahu also under indictment and
But
having
he's on borrowed time already. Like that's why this whole thing got out of hand. He was about to be. Do you remember there were huge protests against Netanyahu prior to October 7th?
bingo. And I think they knew about it. They didn't do anything because he could use a lot of that to like,
Mm.
to make it look good for him, for Netanyahu.
Yes, yes.
But I see in Israel another female leader coming, who would actually uh, bring about peace in the Middle East and would allow Palestine to be its own separate state. Israel can be their own separate state. She won't put up with any nonsense. Absolutely not. But almost
Mm,
like a Golda Meir, but
mm,
somebody who's very strong, very good for the country of Israel. Uh,
mm.
and that's what my guides show me. I don't know when, but
Yes. And this is the problem with our work.
right, right.
It could be in 2 months or two generations away. We are given these visions, or in my case, hearing, and the time frame. So I think as a takeaway for people, the moral of the story is don't get so locked into time.
Right.
Linear time is not your friend. Okay. It's really important to stay calm, rise above it, do what you can to be part of the resistance, but not try and put a time frame on it because it will only frustrate you
Yeah.
and drive you crazy, you know?
I
You're
feel
right.
we'll see that a different leader in Israel soon. I see a female there that we will see in our lifetime. Is it tomorrow at 2:30? No.
Right.
But I do
Yes.
see uh I don't know if they'll just vote Netanyahu out or there's so much that's going to come out against him and the Israeli people are going to I see a lot more protests there too. It-
Well, this is also interesting with where America goes in terms of leadership because the world over and over and over has voted for the two-state solution that was vetoed always by Israel and the US.
right.
The
Yeah.
US
Why?
gave
Why
them
does it
to.
have to be two states? Why don't they, if they don't want to make them a separate state, why don't they open it up so they are equal citizens with equal rights, voting,
Oh,
all that?
because that would be humanitarian.
Mm.
I see the separate states, and my feeling, years ago, and this is not tooting my own horn, or maybe I am, I don't know. But I had predicted that I saw the Berlin Wall coming down and I saw Germany united. And I predicted on a radio show. This was in the late 70s or early 80s. And oh my God, the flag was, what? You're crazy. It's not going to happen. And I kept saying, yes, I see that. And look what
Yeah.
happened. And was it 1988, 1989?
89, I think.
89.
Yeah, and people forget the groups did live together. If I've got black and white photos from the 20s and 30s of the women's movement in Gaza, which was Jews and Arabs and non-secular Gazans who were sharing foods. I used to talk to old Jews in London. So in the 70s, they were already in their 80s, so they're all dead now. But they said, no, if anyone's kids was sick, we'd take the chicken soup. Everyone, it's not that these people cannot live together.
Right.
Right.
You know,
Right. Exactly. And
it's that everything's jumped in between,
but I do see the world supporting separate states, and I see separate states. And
Yeah, I don't know. So I think both sides have to step off the high ground. So as long as Hamas is saying from the river to the sea, that's an existential threat for Israel. As
Right.
long as you've got Israeli settlers saying there is no such thing as an innocent Palestinian,
That's
meaning
horrible.
kill the babies, right? How do you distinguish those statements?
right.
Both are indefensible statements.
Correct. That's correct.
You
And I think
know?
that comes with, healing those wounds comes
Healing the
comes
wounds.
with leadership. And I
And you
see
do that, I believe, by sending your kids to school together, not separately. I would
Yes.
get rid of religious schools all over the world if I could wave my
Yes.
magic wand.
it's just like what happened in the South because, blacks could not go to white schools or vice versa. And when they said you have to segregate,
Mm.
and it worked out quite well.
Mm.
And look
Mhm.
where we're
Mm.
at now. So
I know.
here again, it didn't happen overnight. It took a while. And who's
That's right. And people respond to being treated well by other people. So in my suburb, there's a huge Middle Eastern population in my suburb here in Melbourne, but it's diverse within itself. So you've got Iranians, Iraqis, Egyptians, Ethiopian Muslims, Jordanians, Cypriots, full spectrum, plus the gays and the ferals. And so you go to my local bakery and there'll be women in hijabs, even a couple in full burqas, and there'll be a lesbian couple tongue kissing in front of them in the bakery, and then everyone just chats.
That's how it should
Yeah.
be.
Why can't we just respect each other's differences? And, I mean, we're all human beings. We're all connected. I always thought that was what was nice about America is the diversity. You can learn from different cultures, from different people.
Absolutely.
Makes us more interesting than just all white,
That's how we became America because we were founded on diversity.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
you know, there was a movie in Schindler. There was a part in the movie Schindler's List when Oscar Schindler was talking to a Jewish girl that the commandant of the prison camp kept in his home. I didn't do that. I don't know why that went down.
Oh, interesting.
Thumbs
Yeah.
down
That was
yourself.
interesting, right? And she was just he was giving her comfort, and he said, I'm misquoting the line, but something to the effect of Oscar Schindler in the movie said it. That this madness will end.
Mm,
And that is
mm,
my advice to all of you watching and wondering what's going to happen in America. This
mm.
madness will end.
It will.
Exactly.
Maybe
And
tomorrow.
my other message always is Be the change you want to see.
Bingo.
There's more
Deann, you
good than
said it.
bad.
It's about all of us living together and stepping out of judgment. You
Mm.
uh,
Not easy.
I
no,
know, right?
and this American apartheid will end.
Yeah.
Uh, Anyway, all right. This has been so cool. We got to do this again.
Yeah, absolutely. And now
I
you're better. We'll be able to do it again too.
Let's do it because we're all feeling good. We're all back. Yay. Lena's doing readings. Deann's back. She's going to start reading again, get her files. Okay. So I will put below how to contact you all and how to contact me. Thank you so much. And I want to thank our community and I want to thank our supporters and subscribers. I'm going to leave you all with this. When I had cancer, I was paralyzed by fear, and it came
Mm.
to me from spirit. Don't let the fear stand in front of us and hold us back. Let it get behind us and push us forward.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that, Mel.
Yep. That's how I got through cancer. So
That's brilliant.
there you go.
Oh, bless.
All right. This has been so cool. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.